Next Gen Economy Podcast, accelerating breakthroughs.
The Next Gen Economy Podcast is all about young people making waves in business and innovation. We interview some of the most inspiring changemakers out there who are developing creative solutions to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. If you're looking for a dose of inspiration and some practical tips on how to make a difference in the world, this is the show for you. The Next Gen Economy Podcast is brought to you by ExO Angels and sponsored by Island 17, Dream Tank, ExO Economy, and Futureville. Visit us at nextgen-economy.com.
Kyle, you made me think of a question. One of the questions we thought about was, you've been at this for a while. You mentioned 4 years, a lot of work, a lot of thinking, planning, and then Aditya, you talked about a 2-week sprint. I attended a meeting, one of the inaugural meetings, I think, for Island 17, where we talked a lot about what was going on. It was wonderful. But what I'd like for all of you to potentially share from your point of view is, what's been the biggest barrier? What's the thing that stopped you the most, slowed you down the most, caused you the most trouble? I think knowing these kinds of things can really help people move forward with their own projects. Julian, would you like to go first?
Sure. Yeah. Wow. Where do I start? I mean,
just pick the top one.
Yeah. There's literally like 40 billion challenges you face on a daily basis. Yeah, I think more than anything, the first place you have to begin is with your mindset, because if you're not prepared to confront the number of challenges that come into your mind, you'll give up easily, prematurely. I think one of the best pieces of advice I've ever received is that if you're not willing to dedicate 10 years of your life to solving the problem, then don't even begin, because that's often what it takes. But I guess more specific to the crypto sphere, there's challenges around understanding it and knowing where to play. And this was touched on earlier, also knowing the legality of things and whatnot. So it's a very tricky space, but that just means you're a pioneer, right? That just means you're early on and that you have a lot to play with. And I think another challenge, actually, we're, building a learn to earn type model. And because this model is so new, we don't really know what business models will work, right? So there's a huge risk in whether the business model we have in mind is even viable, because no one's really done it before. So there's a lot of challenges and risks there, and kind of identifying what will work and what won't. But that's where the notion of just experimenting, moving fast, and trying as many things as possible and pivoting where necessary matters most. And that's where we are, trying to find product market fit and just having a bias toward building and experimenting. So a lot of challenges, but as long as you have confidence in your ability to figure out how to solve them, that's what counts big time.
Well said, Julian. Aditya, would you like to speak next?
So for me, I would like to bring up the point about, I'm going to go back to the 2-week sprint, because this is something I was part of, and this is where I initialized myself at Island 17. So I'll tell a quick story. So basically, it's me, Kyle, I'm halfway across the world. We have a bunch of winter interns in Brown, from Brown University, and all of us just, collaborating, trying to make sure and getting progress. We have 2 weeks, we have a lot to get done. 2 weeks is not a big time frame, but you do realize that you can get a lot done in a small amount of time if you can really push yourself and dedicate yourself to trying and getting it done, and be persevere to try to get that goal. Because personally, that's what I found to keep myself motivated and to keep everyone else motivated. We were on Discord for hours, debugging small little bugs. Kyle, how many times did our project break? Probably 15 or 20 times. We would make a change, it would break, and every single person, we had to re-download it. We would spend hours trying to fix one little thing. We were all trying to sync across the cloud, different time zones, collaborating. So it was the whole experience of being part of a DAO. It didn't matter where you were, what you were doing. We were all dedicated doing one thing. It was the energy and the excitement. It's and because we're part of a revolution, right? We're going into Web3 for a revolution. So for us, we're just part of something so cutting edge and new that it felt so awesome. And that's where I got into it. I was like, you know what? This is very cool. I want to try and stay on and try and make sure that others can experience what I'm doing. So that's kind of what I bring to this perspective. And that's kind of what my experience was in terms of challenges that I personally faced. And I realized that how all these things helped me to try and become more successful, and all of us as well.
Well, your passion is palpable, Kyle.
Yeah. So, this, DP is right. We went through, we built in 2 game engines, Unity and Unreal, those being the top, main ones. And I would say, what's really cool about what's going on with all this is it's not so much like what's holding us back from, doing all this. It's more like keeping up with all the tools and the software and hardware that's changing so quickly. So it's more like your ability to be fluid and flexible and adaptable. And so a lot of that is really like inner work that's going on before you do anything externally. So I would say, what's happening is these pipelines that are still being developed and pioneered are challenging us all to unify in a way where we can all really work in one space globally and not just, talk about it, but actually do it. So I would say, we're dealing with, I was just listening the other day and I shared it with the Island 17 team and a bunch of my close friends and circle. There's a podcast, Video Games Real Talk, and their latest podcast, which I thought was perfect, how video games are creating the next renaissance. And I think that's really important because there was a renaissance on this planet, probably multiple times, recorded and unrecorded. But the last one that was recorded, was in one place on the earth. And we have yet to experience a global renaissance in the way that we all can operate multidimensionally. And I just, like, one of my inspirations is Da Vinci, who, was a painter, a philosopher, an inventor, probably a video gamer. He probably had a video game and he didn't tell anybody about. So, and so, like, there's so many ways that we can operate and wear multiple hats. And that's just, I think, innately how we are all wired. So and then, part of what Heidi brings in, which is really beautiful and great energy, is the antidote to dream crushing. So, like, there's been a lot of dream crushing going on the planet, and whether that was intentful or not, it doesn't matter. The point is we can kind of dissolve that way of being linear and, I'm going to be like a plumber, I'm going to be an astronaut. It's like, you don't have to be just one thing. You can do multiple things and you can plug into now this new digital space that will challenge you to be multiple things at one time and be more of a fluid human being. And therefore you can offer even more gifts and serve, the greater whole in a much more enlightening way, I believe. And that really is like, a new opportunity for the next renaissance that's approaching.
I love that. I could definitely see Da Vinci playing Dungeons and Dragons, pen and paper probably at the time, but yeah, sure. I was just reading a book, Kyle, and I'm blanking on the name right now, but they talk about the difference between learning and teaching, and that in the context of the vast amounts of digital knowledge that we have available to us. I mean, this panel will get recorded, and if there's something in here somebody needs, they'll always be able to go back and find it. YouTube is insane. Search for anything you can think up on YouTube, and you can find it and learn how to do at least some of it, and then probably find more people that are connected to it. And if you take that initiative, that's what I try to show my kids how to do, because I'd like them to be able to do that themselves.
The Next Gen Economy podcast is brought to you by ExO Angels and sponsored by Island 17, Dream Tank, ExO Economy, and Futureville. Visit us at nextgen-economy.com.
Next Gen Economy Podcast, accelerating breakthroughs.